Hey everybody, what is going on? Hexlex here. I got another Master Duel video for you. Coming at you with some Fiendsmith Punk games. Had a lot of fun messing around with this deck on ladder this season, as I usually do. I really like Fiendsmith Punk, well, Punk in general, but I was about to say I really like Fiendsmith, which actually is not completely untrue either. So anyway, first game here is going to be going second against Risal. As you can see, they did manage to open Ice Risal, making my Joel Lockbird not quite as effective as it could be here. It's not going to completely stop them from making a rank 4. I was a little bit surprised when they went for Baguska, actually, instead of the Detonator. I actually think Detonator is a little stronger than Baguska if you're going to end on something like a rank 4, but if they want to end on the Baguska, that's actually pretty fine with me, because I'm going to have an easier time dealing with that. We're going to just start by going for our Fiendsmith engine, as that will not be affected by the Baguska nearly as much as the other cards, because of course the fact that Link monsters cannot be turned to defense mode, which means they cannot be negated by the Baguska. Now once the Engraver's online, I'm going to need to use my Foxy Tune here to get another body in play. I'm going to just get a Xayamine and then link off into the sequence. That way I can go for the sequence effect in order to do a fusion summon here. Now, my opponent's going to have an infinite impermanence, which is going to be rough. However, it's not the end of the world, because what I can do to out this Baguska is I can activate the Engraver Graveyard effect to revive itself. And while I can't use Engraver's effect to get rid of Baguska, what I can do is link into something else that can. It's going to be my SP Little Knight. So, won't be able to OTK this turn because I can't attack directly, but we can get rid of the Baguska and not have to deal with it anymore. Opponent's going to actually activate their Nibiru here, which is totally fine with me, because I, of course, plan to still keep comboing after this. I still have an emergency teleport, and I didn't actually activate Xayamine's effect when it was on the field earlier. So we can go Xayamine for Rising Scales. Rising Scales banish the trap card that we discarded earlier. Activate summon the Sharkusai to fuse. And we are off to the races, able to now execute pretty much a full combo Punk line here. Or a full Punk combo line, rather. Deck list, as always, is going to be at the end of the video. But it's pretty similar to the list I was playing last season, or I think it was last season, whenever the last time I played this deck was. But yeah, I love Punk. One of my favorite decks of all time. It's right up there with Sprite and Mathmech for me as far as like favorite decks I've played on Master Duel. I like it more than Mathmech. I'd say Punk is my second favorite deck behind Sprite. It's still quite good too. It does obviously feel that power creep like a lot of more off-meta decks do. Like I would call Punk a pretty firmly upper rogue deck, but upper rogue decks, of course, are still capable of doing quite well. Punk's one of those decks where when you go first, a lot of the time it just feels like you're invincible. And even when you go second, as you can see here, we still have a lot to do playing through our opponent's turn, not during their turn. But of course, going first in games like this one I'm about to show you here, we have quite a bit to do. This will be a going first game against Stun. So it's always very satisfying when you win the coin flip and they end up being on Stun. But here we have not only the Fiendsmith Engraver, but also the Punk Ogre Dance as well. So we can lead with Fiendsmith stuff and then follow up with Punk plays. So, excuse me, sorry about that. If you open up with Punk plays, then you do have the ability to add Fiendsmith cards to your end board. But unfortunately, this is not one of those decks where it works the other way around. Your Fiendsmith engine cannot get you into Punk plays, sad though it may be. I still think the Fiendsmith engine is worth playing in this deck though, because of hands like this, where you do open Engraver plus Punk plays. Well, for starters, it's worth playing to add, the Fiendsmith cards to your Punk end board. I think that alone does make it worth it. But also, again, hands like this where you open Engraver plus Punk stuff, you can lead by making an Appaloosa, thereby insulating all of your Punk plays from your opponent's hand traps. Because Punk's greatest weakness has always been two hand traps away, Ash Blossom and Nibiru. Ash Blossom on Rising Carp is absolutely just a turn ender, and the deck before Fiendsmith had little recourse against Nibiru. However, now I can make this 3-mana Appaloosa, and we do not have to worry about any of those hand traps. Now, to be fair, my opponent's on stun, so they're not really playing any of those hand traps, but of course, obviously I didn't know what my opponent was playing going into this game. Alright, so now we can go for the Rising Scales for the Sharakusai. I can even fuse with the other Ogre Dance in my hand. If you have extra Punk monsters in your hand, then you should be fusing them for the Sharakusai. The more stuff you can end with on board, the better. Not only does it raise the level of like your end board, in terms of the number of bodies you have access to, but also in terms of the quality of your end board. Because you could, for example, potentially leave the Rising Scales on the field, which does have the effect to potentially turn monsters face down. If nothing else, you could just make like an SP Little Knight to add to your end board, if you really don't have anything else you want to, you know, sit on. But yeah, we get not only the draws from the field spell here, we can special summon the Madam Spider, which can add the Nashiwari Surprise, and then we can draw another hand trap. Sometimes playing Punk kind of feels like playing Malice, where you're just drawing a million cards on top of building a huge board. I'm telling you, it's really easy to sleep on this deck, but I'm telling you, it's so unbelievably easy to end on boards like this. Like, as you're about to see here, as I talked about earlier, I'm even making an extra SP Little Knight. That's on top of... Okay. That extra SP Little Knight, by the way, is on top of the 3-mat Apo for 3 monster negates, Punk Jam Fever, so I can even negate 2 monster effects in the same chain link. I have a pop with the Nashiwari Surprise, and then I can also go these 2 into my second Amazing Dragon for another field bounce, on top of my 4 hand traps. I really wanted to include this to absolutely just really demonstrate why I love Punk so much and why I think it is a really good deck, even in this meta. Like I said, some hands you go first and you just feel invincible. This is definitely one of them. Alright, they're going to lead with the Earth Barrier statue, which does stop me from going into the Amazing Dragon, but I'm really concerned about this Moon Mirror Shield here, because I can simply use the Little Knight to tag out the equipped Earth Barrier statue, and then they lose both it and the equipped spell. They can set 3 if they'd like to, but Sharakusai can be used at any point during the opponent's turn, meaning during their end phase, I'm going to Synchro Summon for the Amazing Dragon. Amazing Dragon bounces up to the number of level 3 Psychic monsters in my graveyard, and I do in fact have 4. So, 1, 2, 3, 4. I can bounce all of their back rows, and I get my Little Knight back. They get their Barrier statue back, sure, but without any face down cards, I already have lethal on board. So, that, if nothing else, should be some adequate advertisement for what exactly the Punk engine can do. I got another going second game against Risal for this next one here. This one's going to be a lot more back and forth, though. This is a 7-turn duel. Let's see what we got here. Our opponent, like I said, is going first. We opened Droll and Ash, so liking this opening hand going against Risal. They're going to lead with the Ice Risal. I'm actually going to Ash it, and then if they try to add something off of like a bonfire or something for follow-up, that was my plan to then Droll. However, they have a Call By, which I guess I'd rather the Call By resolve against this Ash than the Droll. Kind of, unless they didn't have follow-up, and then I would have rather that Ash resolved, but... Yeah, I can throw out the Droll and Lockbird here, and I still will, because it's good against Duo Drive, but they already not only have the ability to make a rank 4, but they still have X'd in their hand. So, I really kind of don't like the position I'm in, actually, but at least I only have 1 face down to go with their Detonator. I can lead with normal summon Zayamine F, pay 600, opponent's going to chain the Detonator, which this is actually completely fine, by the way. In fact, I actually wanted this to happen, because normally what you would do to continue your combo line is link into Almirage just to get your Zayamine in the graveyard. That way you could banish it for the Rising Scale. So my opponent just did that for me, and used up one of their Detonator materials in the process, so I'm very glad for that. I'm going to go for the Rising Scales F, but was surprised to see my opponent throw out a Ghost Bell. That is definitely going to throw a wrench in my plans. I planned for the Detonator pop with the E-Tele, but I did not plan for that Ghost Bell. So what I did here was I went E-Tele just for another Zayamine to have a tuner, and then I went to Psychic End Punisher. Because my thought process was if I try to E-Tele for Sharakusai, then my opponent simply chains Detonator, pops one of my 2 Punk monsters. I don't have a Punk monster in hand, which means I just won't be able to fuse and I'll just lose, right? So I decided to go for the Pep here, the Psychic End Punisher, to battle into the Detonator. Now you'll notice that I did not activate the effect at the start of the battle phase to gain attack point. That was so that I could battle, but not put my opponent at lower life points than myself. That way, my pep would not lose its immunity. But I still wanted to battle to get rid of the detonator material here. Okay, there's the extra Risal. Not worried about the aggregator negate, because obviously the pep is unaffected, but the chain block does stop me from using Ash Blossom, which that would have been ideal there. At this rate, I'm pretty much just going to have to wait for the duo drive, but also now they can just normal summon the Ice Risal and go for Star and set Cross. So at this point, it's kind of moot. I think it's a decently safe assumption to assume their face down card is plug-in. But I decided to let them draw here anyway, because it didn't seem like it was worth the Ash Blossom. The 4 material duo drive really surprised me here. I kind of don't know why they just didn't make 2 rank 4s. But I'm fine with that. I'm fine with the detonator battle as well. I can buff Punisher, stay lower life points in them while getting rid of it. And now I'm just going to have to awkwardly pass with a 2-mat duo drive, although they do still have quite a few options with the cross and such. Now, unfortunately, I can't really battle their duo drive here because at this point, I pretty much know they have plug-in. And if I battle, they can just revive. And furthermore, battling would also put them, again, at lower life points than me, which means that I would not be able to get my Psychic and Punisher immunity here. So that's kind of the battle you'll find yourself with Pep a lot of the time, is that you want, in these kind of situations where you can't just lethal right away, you can't really battle either, otherwise your towers will become affected by card effects. Yeah, of course they were always going to use Cross on the Ash Blossom there. I didn't really have any delusions of that resolving, but they just had a second plug-in from deck to hand. I think they did. They're playing 3 plug-in. That's insane. That's way too much. But at this point, even if my pep is like huge, has a lot of attack points, and is unaffected by stuff, you know, I'm still way far behind in terms of card advantage. Like, they're going to be able to crash their monsters into my pep, making it, you know, affected by stuff again. And from there, they can simply, you know, they can just wait me out at that point. It's not even a matter of waiting me out. It's a matter of staring me down, because I'm about to be out here with literally nothing on hand or field. And then my opponent will have, what, 6 cards in hand plus 6 cards on field. There's no shot I can top deck into anything, especially with the Risal cross up. And even if that wasn't up, again, million cards in hand. So, yeah, this was a situation where Risal just won the grind game because I didn't really have anything to do here. It's fun. It's too bad, too. Ogre Dance actually would have been enough to get me to plays, but they're not even going to bother using the cross. They're simply going to Ash Blossom. So, womp womp. But you know what? This is kind of what I was talking about earlier when I was kind of illustrating the point that some decks just have a sheer power level difference. Like, against that kind of an opening hand from Risal, even with my hand traps, there's just nothing that I can really do. But while it's a little bit frustrating, it's definitely far from how every single game plays out, and I think a deck like P.U.N.K can still experience a lot of success. Again, our first game was a game of us winning, going second against Risal. So anyway, I still have at least one more game for us to show off here. Let's go into that. Alright, going into this last duel here, I think we're going first. I think this is against a 60-card Insect deck, if I remember right. I remember one of my opponents at one point milled a Resonance Insect, and I was like, wait, what? I was almost a little scared. Alright, so here I'm going to lead with normal summon Fabled Lurry. That looks a little bit weird, but consider that I have Emergency Teleport in hand. That's why I don't feel the need to lead with Zami. And as I mentioned before, if you can lead with the Fiendsmith engine, it's pretty much always better to do so, because then you are able to set up the Appaloosa and insulate the rest of your combos. And even if you don't get to Appaloosa, well, that just means your opponent used hand traps on your Fiendsmith stuff, which means they won't have hand traps for your P.U.N.K stuff. So I again think that's honestly the biggest benefit of playing Fiendsmith in this deck. Again, you can go from P.U.N.K stuff into Fiendsmith cards. I think I actually did make a combo guide for this build for Fiendsmith P.U.N.K specifically. I think I did, right? If I did, I should remember that, but it's sad I don't. If I did, I guess I'll go ahead and link in the description below, but And sure enough, there is the Nibiru. As mentioned before, that is a devastating turn ender against Punk decks, but thanks to the Fiendsmith engine, I can simply shrug it off and go, okay, E-Tilly. But they have a dash! Ah! We have a call by though, it's okay. We'll simply use call by on their Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring. It's a good thing our opening hand was so good. I'm sure, you know, any other person playing this situation would have been like, wow, 60 cards, they opened Fua, Ash, and Nibiru. But it's like, I don't know. I don't really get mad when my opponent opens well in a 60 card deck, because it's like, well, yeah, aren't they playing good cards? like they're gonna have good cards either way, right? Anyway. But although that was a quick kind of one-turn game, didn't even really get to finish out my combo line, I still want to show that off because I think it really does highlight just how much the Fiendsmith engine really does help support Punk. I think it's very, very important for the deck. But let's go ahead and take a look at the build now. I'll show you that. And here is the deck list here. Like I said, it really isn't too different from what I was doing before. I think the only thing I really changed was making room for another Joel and Knockbird by kind of swapping around some of my hand traps, but yeah, very much similar to what I was playing last season. Don't really feel the need to change up the build too much, but yeah, like I said, Punk I think is not just a really fun deck, but I think is better than people give credit for. It's one of those decks that's really easy to write off because, you know, it's kind of easy to think of it of like, oh, they got a couple of new pieces of support, but it's not tier 1 after it, so is it really worth, you know, considering? The answer is definitely yes. It's always worth considering some of these more rogue decks, even if they don't seem, even if they aren't quite as powerful as like Risal or Malice. That doesn't mean that they are not worth using. A deck like Fiendsmith Punk, with the right dedicated pilot, is still more than capable of hitting Master 1, doing well in rating duels, and topping tournaments as well. A lot of people I find get really discouraged by the existence of powerful decks, but yeah, that doesn't mean that everything else is invalid, not by any means. But yeah, thanks for checking out this video. Thanks for checking out this build. Super appreciated as always. Got a really exciting series coming up. Channel members who have early access to the videos have already seen a couple of those videos, but definitely look forward to those coming up this week. If you'd like early access, make sure to join as a YouTube member by hitting that join button below. But like I said, that's going to go ahead and do it for this video. Thank you so very much for watching. Let us move on to our outro. Hey everybody, Hexlex here. Thank you so very much for watching all the way to the very end of the video, which by the way is one of the best ways to support the channel. Speaking of supporting the channel, take a look at the names on screen. These are folks who have been so generous as to either join as a YouTube member or subscribe over on patreon.com/Hexlex to support. There's also perks for doing so. If you would like to see YouTube videos early, as well as some exclusive videos that get uploaded to YouTube, but for one reason or another I decide not to publish, definitely go ahead and hit that join button to see content early, as well as some exclusive content. If you're looking for more exclusive content, over on patreon.com, I upload exclusive videos that are not posted on YouTube just about every single day. Whether you choose to subscribe over on Patreon, join as a YouTube member, or simply continue to watch, your support is greatly appreciated. Thank you so very much. But for now, this is Hexlex. I am signing out, and I hope that you have a fantastic day.